So we're on the draw here. Gonna keep um, stirring, scrying, path. Plenty of stuff to do. Solid hand, but okay. Here's a mountain. Suspend Riftbolt. That's bad news. That is not what we wanted to see. All right. It looks like we're probably up against burn here. So still gonna proceed with the game plan. Grabbing Urza's tower here. So we're not gonna have Tron on turn 3, but we're pretty likely to have it on turn 4. Hopefully that's gonna be good enough. So we may, if our opponent plays a creature, we can path it. If not, then we can Sylvan Scrying. Yep, that's a creature for you. Eidolon of the Great Revel. So our opponent already knows about the tower, so that's the one I'm gonna play. That's the land I'm gonna play here, and gonna be pathing that Eidolon shortly. And I like waiting there on the path to not give our opponent the additional land. And if our opponent played a haste creature, they would have taken 2 damage. Probably not particularly irrelevant to 2 damage, but now we drew Spellskite, so this actually means we have a decision. We could cast Sylvan Scrying here and ensure having Tron next turn, or play Spellskite and use it to potentially block the Wild Nacatl. Our opponent's got 3 cards in hand. Tough decision. If we play Spellskite, we could Ancient Stirrings into an Urza's Mine, which would be the best case scenario. Though the chances of that actually happening are not that high. So it's a close spot. The issue with playing Spellskite is it also turns on cards like Searing Blaze. So I think I prefer to Sylvan Scrying here. Because if we don't have Tron next turn, we're going to be in really bad spots. So if we know that the mine was in our top 6 cards, we would definitely play the Spellskite. But we have no way of knowing that. So I think this is the more conservative line. And now our opponent's got 2 mana up. We can play this Ugin here. And I think we probably want to plus it, but it's close. Just because if our opponent has a Tarka's Command, we wouldn't want to plus it, but at the same time, if our opponent had a Tarka's Command, they could have played it last turn. So that's definitely an argument for trying to shoot the Nacatl with the Ugin. Alright, definitely playing Ugin. That's step 1. So if we minus it, it would be on 6. Versus if we plus it, it would be on 9. So that's a pretty significant difference. If our opponent has mana available for Tarka's Command here. Alright, I think if our opponent had a Tarka's Command, they probably would have used it. But we're going to be sad if that's not the case. Alright, so that worked. But our opponent could definitely still just kill us here. We're at 9, so that means pretty much any 3 burn spells would do the job here. And Monastery Swift Spear, we'll see if there's a follow-up burn spell or 2. And makes sense, our opponent's just coming straight at us here with this attack. Hopefully this was it. Okay, so Lightning Bolt, that's going to put us down to 4. But now we're able to untap, so that feels pretty good. We can try to move towards Ultimate and Ugin. So I like plussing Ugin, trying to take out the Swift Spear. That worked. Now we have Karn. I don't like committing a creature here because of Searing Blaze. We don't want to give our opponent a target for Searing Blaze if we can help it. So we don't really even need to Ancient Stirrings here necessarily. Alright, well I'm going to Ancient Stirrings, see what we find off the Stirrings. Just going to grab a tower. But we weren't going to play Ulamog here anyways. We wouldn't want to. Because we're going to... The plan is to ultimate this Ugin. So I'm going to play Karn. And actually I like taking out the Sacred Foundry here. And the reason why I like doing that is because Boros Charm is one of the cards that would deal us lethal by itself here. So now our opponent would need a white source plus Boros Charm in order to take that line. Alright, so now we're in a really nice spot. Our opponent pretty much has to have a Tarka's Command. So I like just running out. There's definitely an argument to just running out the Ulamog here. But first I'm going to go ahead and exile our opponent's Stomping Ground. Alright, well, now time to go for the ultimate. And we're just going to hope that our opponent doesn't have another burn spell here. So we gained the life, and now we can just kind of go crazy. Put up to 7 target permanents into play. So that ended up working out quite nicely for us. And this game is basically over now. I'm going to cast Ulamog, exile these 2 mountains that our opponent has. And that's going to do it. So if our opponent had a Searing Blaze, we played around it the whole time. Because we never played a creature and we ended the game at 1. So that felt pretty good. So in terms of sideboarding, we want the life gain. The matchup definitely gets better after board. So Thragtusk comes in, Blessed Alliance, definitely. Path is another solid option. Gemstone Caverns, I like it because we're going to be on the draw here. So in terms of what to side out, Oblivion Stone, it's just a bit slow. We got some slow cards here in the matchup. Ghost Quarter, because we're bringing in the caverns, I'm fine with swapping that out. And then we can board out some of our big stuff. So shaving and Ugin, generally fine with shaving a couple of chromatic spheres as well. So yeah, this looks pretty good. Ulamog, you can also cut down on Ulamog, because we do have a significant amount of threats. So I'm gonna go down to one Ulamog. We want one to be able to search for potentially, but Karn and our other threats normally enough to get it done. So I think after sideboard we just trim down to one Ugin, one Ulamog, and then we want them. We still want max Karns, and no need for warping whale, even though it does get rid of monastery swift spear, but I don't think it's quite good enough. So gonna submit this, and once again we're gonna have to win on the draw against Burn. Not an easy task with Tron. But gonna keep this. We've got Path, and we trimmed down on some of our big stuff. We still have a Karn and an Ugin in our hand though. So looks like our opponent does have a burn spell, but no creature. Hard to say exactly what that means. I'm gonna play Chromatic Sphere here, just because our opponent might have Eidolon, but we can path that next turn if we want to, and it looks like, in fact, our opponent doesn't have Eidolon. Horizon Canopy is a bit of an awkward land in the matchup. So we might have to take some unnecessary damage from it. I shouldn't say unnecessary, but damage we did not want to be taking. So start by cracking the sphere. And there's a mine, so we can just play that. And I think we want to go for the Sylvan Scrying now. Gonna grab Tower, so now we're just missing Power Plant. And since our opponent's on a heavy burn draw, we definitely may want to rely on the Blessed Alliance in order to gain us some life. So I think it's fine to actually crack the Blessed Alliance, or crack the Chromatic Star rather. And alright, we found another tower. That's unfortunate, because we already used our scrying to find a tower earlier. But it looks like, alright, our opponent's playing this game a little bit of an unusual way. We've got this Thrag Tusk, which we really want to try to maximize. So even though we don't have access to Tron next turn necessarily, so we're gonna let this Skullcrack resolve. I don't want a Blessed Alliance, even though we could gain some life here. Alright, so this Goblin Guide is going to allow us. We got an Ancient Stirrings on top. I am now going to escalate the Blessed Alliance, which is it's perfect for us, because if our opponent if our opponent does Skullcrack or Atarka's command us, then we can just resolve the Thragtusk and gain life next turn. So I think this is going to work out well for us. And the Goblin Guide is, of course, going to go away no matter what. So it looks like in Otarka's command, yep, that plays right into our hands. Because now this is the perfect window. So we can just simply play Gemstone Caverns and run out the Thragtusk. That's going to be huge. And it's going to buffer our life total to a point where it's going to be hard for our opponent to have enough burn. There's one burn spell. So now I like going for Ancient Stirrings. Looking for this Urza's Power Plant. We found an Expedition map. So that's going to be the grab here. And we're going to be able to get Tron into play next turn. I like attacking with Thragtusk here. Alright, there's a Path to Exile. Interesting that our opponent would have that card. I guess it makes sense for Wormcoil Engine, but our list only has one Wormcoil. So it's still a little bit weird. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the Tron piece here. The power plant into play. Even though we can't make use of the Tron this turn, we will be able to this following turn coming up. So we have the option of now which Planeswalker we want to run out. First, though, let's go ahead and use this Chromatic Sphere just to cycle. Found a Talisman of Unity. Interesting. Alright, so Ugin is going to end the game a little bit faster. So we can deal our opponent 3, then continue that trend. Karn, though, we can start stripping our opponent's mana away. So we can also just plus Karn, which is pretty powerful. So I think I like playing the Karn here. There's arguments to both. And going after plussing first. So we'll see if our opponent has 2 burn spells in hand or what. So there's a bolt. And it looks like it's going to be another one. So yep, there's Boros Charm. So that's pretty bad for us. That was worst case scenario. And we can actually crack this Horizon Canopy for a card now. Wow, that was lucky. Blessed Alliance off the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use this now to gain 4. And that's gonna put us out of 1 burn spell rage. So that Blessed Alliance was huge. Absolutely huge. And now we should be able to just take over the game. Play Ugin. Oops, made a little bit too much mana there. That's okay. And just going to start going after our opponent's lands at this point with Karn. So we're attacking from every single angle, basically. And the reason why I went after the white source is, once again, Boros Charm would be one of the worst possible cards we could see. So we're just going to continue to go after the lands. Looks like that worked, and that's going to be the match.